What's up, everybody? Today, I'm gonna be talking about one of the things that I did. It's the hardest thing I've done in the last 10, 15 years. I'm gonna tell you the challenges I encountered and the failures that I endured and why I did this amazing thing. So make sure you check out this whole video in its entirety. Okay, if you're wondering what the hell I did, let's get to it right now. I wrote a book. Okay, so I'm not gonna save this to the end. If you didn't want to know, like, oh, what did you do, Troy? What's so cool? Well, I didn't do anything cool. I did something difficult. Okay, let's talk about why did I write this book right here. The reason that I wrote this book, The Millionaire Mentorship, it's on Amazon right now, and for the second week in a row, we are the best seller in our category, which is super exciting. I don't know if that means anything to anybody, but for me, it means something because I can talk about it, right? The reason that I wrote this book, The Millionaire Mentorship, is because when I first started getting on social media, and I realized that the reason I got on social media is to start an education platform, not just to give away free education, which I'm doing right now, which is why you should subscribe. The reason that I got into YouTube and the reason I got into social media, quite honestly, is a lot of the guys I saw out there were A, teaching in theory, B, teaching incorrectly, or C, had no idea what they were talking about. I got on because I knew that, number one, I wasn't a braggadocious thing. And before I really understood what social media was, I was like, people are out bragging. But then I realized I could actually inspire people. And that's the reason I chose to get into social media. And the reason I chose to write this book was to inspire you. I want to talk about what this book is to me. This book to me is just a bunch of stories and a bunch of theoretical solutions to today's problems. What's today's problem? If you're like most people out there right now, chances are you're living paycheck to paycheck, are barely getting by. Maybe you're doing better than some, or maybe you're actually doing really good right now, but you're not satisfied with where you're at in life. Maybe you're doing great. Maybe you work for a great company. Maybe you're getting paid great amounts of money, but you don't feel like you're really serving your purpose. Maybe you're maxed out. Maybe you can't go any further than where you're currently at. And this book is going to show you exactly that. Prior to writing this book, I actually spent some time in the corporate world. If you don't know about me, I'm from Renton, Washington, grew up in Issaquah, Washington, graduated high school at Issaquah, Washington, class of 96, Go Indians, or I guess it's called Go Sammamish now. I wrote this book because it encapsulates my story of how I started with absolutely nothing and how I became a multimillionaire, all through the power of real estate. And the reason why that's a powerful statement, I'm not saying that to brag, is my parents actually, before I went to Issaquah High School, I went to Issaquah Middle School, and I got a 1.8 GPA my 7th grade year. And my dad and my mom looked at me and they said, we're gonna hold you back. You're just not smart enough. The reality is the school system wasn't for me. It never has been, never was. I regretted going to college. And so I wrote this book so that anybody that feels exactly the same way I do, whether they're in college, whether they're young, whether they're new, whether they're old, or whether they're just ready for a change, that they can get that change by taking the actions outlined in this book. Let's go through what the chapters are. Get my reading glasses on, because one thing with getting old in real estate is you lose your vision and your hair. And one thing I wanted to give a shout out to real quick, two major inspirations are, number one, my wife really helped me get going on this thing. Obviously, my wife has been a huge success in my life, pushing me to do stuff that she knew I could do and maybe I didn't know I could do. The other person that really helped me get this book done was my dad. He actually helped me edit this book till the end. We went through several rereads and several issues, and he got frustrated with me, and that's what happens when you're working with your father. That's what happens when you're doing something complicated. But I want to talk to you about the chapters that are in this book. So chapter 1, invest in yourself and set goals. And we go into why you need to invest in yourself first, which is why you should buy this book, because you're investing in yourself, your own education. And the cost of this book is like $15 on Amazon, $14.97. I don't even know what is that on Kindle, but we'll put it out there. Whatever it's at on Kindle, we're going to have an Audible version in Spanish and in English coming to you soon. Chapter number 2 is what type of investor are you going to be, right? Because wherever you're at in your life, your chapter 1 is different than my chapter 1. Your want is different than my want. Your need is different than my need. So I always tell you, don't compare yourself to others. And I really mean that. Like, if you don't want to own 350 rental units, I don't blame you. You can own 5 rental units and live a perfectly good life, fishing on a boat in Mississippi, not doing a damn thing and not having a care in the world, and live just fine. So you want to set your goals and you want to find out what type of investor you're going to be. Chapter number 3 is you're going to need to figure out how much money you need to retire. And that's the whole point of this book. In order to build wealth, the definition of building wealth in my mind is replacing your monthly nut. So if your monthly nut is $2,000 or your monthly nut is $5,000, you need to make that much money through passive income, which is rent, which is Airbnb income, which is all sorts of income from investing in real estate that you're getting passively. You're gonna go and figure out how much money you need to retire, and then you're gonna replace that with passive income through real estate. So give you an example. If you have an Airbnb, one Airbnb that generates $5,000 a month, which is very common with Airbnbs on high-end ones, and your net was only $5,000, guess what? You're retired. Now, if you start doing 5,100, you're building wealth because now you're adding $100 a month versus subtracting $100 a month. So that's the idea of building wealth, is you're adding more money every month. How do you buy with no money down? A lot of people want to know, hey, Troy, people talk about buying with no money down, but is it possible? I go into it, how you can buy with no money down. That means no money out of your own pocket. So if you don't have any money, there's no excuse. Then I go into how does owner financing work? You ever find a seller, can't get a loan? I'm going to go into how you can buy the house with just the owner, no bank, and you can sometimes get lots of creative ways to do that. I'll go through in my book many stories of what I have done to buy properties with no money down and how you could do the exact same thing I did. Let me just read through all these chapters real quick. So I'm going to go into invest yourself first, set goals. What type of an investor are you going to be? How much money do you need to retire? How do you buy with no money down? How does owner financing work? How can you make money in probate? My favorite real estate strategy. How to find the right market for investing. Why you should invest in multi-units. How you can retire relatively quickly. How do you find a house to flip? How do you build your credit and get financing? Why you need to have exit strategies. Why you need a smart accountant. The importance of bookkeeping. What is a 1031 exchange? What is the BRRRR method? Buying properties with clouded title. Why you need to get a lawyer. Cautionary tales. Why negotiation important. And what's next. Okay, it's not a high-level scholastic read. It's a common sense guide to becoming a millionaire. The whole point of this book, the reason that I wrote this book, is to inspire you. I wanted to give you a recipe for success, a recipe to become a multimillionaire, a recipe for all the objections that you set in your mind about why you can't do something, and you can say, hey, listen, this guy's a dope and he did it, so why can't I? And that's kind of the way I look at things. Like, there's certain things like becoming a fighter pilot that are like just not for the average guy. But investing in real estate is for the average guy, the average gal, the average person. Everybody needs a place to live. Whether you're renting a couch, living in an apartment building, whether you're renting a single family unit, whether you own, you're either renting that property or owning that property, right? Let's talk about the definitions of that. If you're owning a property, that only means that you control the property. The lease actually controls it after you own it. The renter has a lease on the property. So the whole point is, if you control the property, you can control how much money it can make. Really, you don't own the property even when the mortgage is paid off, because if you stop paying your taxes, you're gonna find out who really owns the property. But what you can do is control it. And real estate allows you to become a multimillionaire slowly and for sure through simple steps that I break down in this book for you. And I wrote it specifically with you in mind because I needed a book that would change my life. Sometimes you need inspiration, right? When you're out there right now and you're sitting there and you're working your job, doing whatever you're doing, maybe you're doing a side hustle, maybe you're doing something, you're doing some hard work, maybe you're just thinking about how you want to pay for your son or daughter's education, whatever your why is, this book will get you there. It's going to give you the recipe for how to become a multimillionaire in real estate. And why do I say recipe? When I actually first wrote the book, I wrote it as a giveaway. I wrote the book to give it away. Then I know one thing about things. When you give away something, it has no value. What I put in here is way more expensive than the $14.97 it cost. It cost me hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars, whatever it cost me in losses, in knowledge, in know-how. I've done 3,000 transactions in real estate that I've been a part of. That's a ton of knowledge. I don't know what you do, but whatever you do, it's through repetition, right? And through all the repetition I've had in real estate is in this book for you to derive stories from so that you can learn from my major failures, my minor failures, and my huge successes that I want to share with you. So I hope that you enjoy the book. I hope that you understand why I wrote it. And I want to tell you why it was so complicated, right? When I actually wrote the book, I wrote it on my phone. I dictated the book to myself, right? I dictated the chapters. I free flowed. We had a gal who worked with us who was a story writer, and I had her go through and tighten things up. And then we went back and forth for several months, and we got it to where I really wanted wanted it, where I was really proud of it, where it was really factual, it was really accurate, it was going to give you all the information that you need to make money in real estate. That's what I wanted. I wanted it to be a recipe for how to make money. Like add desire, add work ethic, become a millionaire, read this book, take action, right? That's what I wanted it to be. The recipe is the missing result. You have the desire. You're going to have the know-how after this book. You'll be able to become rich. That's what my thought was. When I got the book back in November, back after my 5th or 6th edit from my father, I said, man, I can't put my name on this book. And he's like, well, what do you mean? We're trying to shoot for an end of year launch date. What are you doing, Troy? And I said, there is no storytelling. It's not exciting. It's a recipe. It's a recipe for success, but it doesn't tell about actual stories and trials and failures of things that actually happened, and people learn through storytelling. So what I did is I rewrote the book with all those recipes for success, all the recipes that you want to become rich in real estate, that you want to become a multimillionaire in real estate, or that you want to pay for your child's education, or that you want to pay for your mom who took care of you, or your dad that took care of her, or somebody that you want to show everybody that you're not a failure. That's why I wrote this book. But I wrote the stories to inspire you and for you to get started investing in real estate. So I hope you enjoyed the book. If you do, make sure you give me a review. Be authentic. I'm not asking you for a 5-star review, although I do believe it is a 5-star book. I'm asking you for an honest review of the book. Tell me what you think, and be on the lookout for the Spanish Audible, the English Audible, the Spanish version. All that stuff is going to be coming out soon. Make sure you share this video with a friend. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. We're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, and we are going to be launching a coaching program. It's being launched right now. I'm rolling it out. If you're interested in that, go to my website, troykearns.com, sign up. And if you're interested in that, we'll get back to you. It's not a hard pitch. It's going to be expensive. I promise you that. But this book is very inexpensive. Skip Starbucks for a couple days and you can afford the book. Peace.